الحمد لله رب العالمين صلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Why did Allah create us? If we look in the Quran, then we see that Allah mentioned 3 different reasons that He created us. Who knows Surah Al-Mulk? You know Surah Al-Mulk? You want to recite it for us? Huh? Recite the first couple verses for us.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير، الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا وهو العزيز الغفور.
الذي خلق الموت والحياة. What's the rest? What's the rest? الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. Who knows what that means? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said He is the one who created life and death so that He can test us. Should be. Allah said that He created life and death. He made us alive. And He will cause us to die, and the reason for our life is so that He could do what? So He could test us as to who are best in action. Allah knows who is going to be best in action. Switch again. Allah knows who is going to do the best actions. But to show the people who will be best in action, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is why He created us, so that He can test us. So this is the first reason that we find that Allah created us, to test us. Allah created us why? To test us. So life is what? Life is a test. How does a person pass that test? He passed the test by knowing the other 2 reasons that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said He created us. Who knows Surah Al-Talaq? You're still working on it? Who knows Surah Al-Talaq? Allah said in the Quran, MashaAllah. So I'm going to say the beginning, you know the end, right? You know the whole thing? The last verse, Allahu alladhi khalaqa sab'a samawat. You know it? There you go.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان.
Is it on? You have to turn it on. There you go.
الله الذي خلق 7 سماوات طباقا ما
ومن الأرض مثلهن
يتنزل لتعلموا أن الله على كل شيء قدير وأن الله قد أحاط بكل شيء علما.
تبارك الله. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in this verse that Allah created 7 samawat. Allah created the 7 heavens, 7 firmaments. And there are 7 heavens, one over another, going all the way up to the throne of Ar-Rahman, the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is the highest part of the universe. Allah created the 7 heavens, and He created the likes of that from the earth. So Allah created the 7 heavens, and He created the earth, and everything that is above and everything that is below. يَتَنَزَّلُ الْأَمْرُ بَيْنَهُنَّ. The order of Allah goes between the heavens and the earth, meaning that Allah sends down His orders from the heavens to the earth. Why? What is the order of Allah here? The scholars, they say the order of Allah is two things. The first thing is the revelation that Allah sent to the prophets and the messengers, the books that were revealed to the prophets and the messengers. What were some of the books that were revealed to the prophets and messengers? The Quran, the Injil, the Torah, right? The pages of Ibrahim, alayhi salatu wasalam, the Zabur of Dawood. There were a number of books that we know that were revealed to the prophets and the messengers. What was the reason that Allah sent the books to the prophets and the messengers? To teach others. Very, very good. To guide the people. To guide people. The people need guidance, right? If everybody was just to decide what they think is the best way to act and the best way to believe and the best way to speak and the best way to treat people, and everybody will come up with a different answer. The criminal would have an answer that is different than the person who has a job. The wealthy person, the person that's rich, would have an answer that's different than the poor person of how they think people should be treated and dealt with and how they think Allah should be believed in and all those sorts of things. The smart person and the stupid person would have different answers, right? So that's how we find the kuffar, right? The kuffar, everybody, they have a different way that they believe, a different way that they behave, a different way that they treat people, so on and so forth. But Allah sent guidance so that we wouldn't have to guess about anything. We wouldn't have to guess about how to believe about Allah, how to worship Allah. We wouldn't have to guess about how to treat people, how to treat our parents, how to raise our children, and all those sorts of things. Allah, He gave us guidance for this reason. So Allah in this verse, where is the verse? Where was the verse? The verse we just read. Who knows where the verse is at? Surah Talaq. Surah Talaq. And it's the last verse in the surah. It's the last verse of Surah Talaq. The first verse that I mentioned, that we heard was, where was it at? Surah Al-Mulk. So this verse, Allah said that He created the heavens and the earth. I mean, He created everything and everyone that is in them. Right? He created the heavens and the earth. And the order of Allah, which is what? The revelation. Right? The books that were sent to the prophets and the messengers. The revelation that comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descends. Who knows what descends means? Descend means I need to come down. It comes down between the heavens and the earth. And the other thing that is what is meant by the order of Allah is Al-Qadr. Who knows what Al-Qadr is? Al-Qadr. One. The decree of Allah, what is going to happen, who's going to be born, who's going to die, who's going to be rich, who's going to be poor, who's going to be blessed, who's going to be destroyed, who's going to be honored, who's going to be humiliated, when is it going to rain, when is there going to be a famine. All those sorts of things, nothing happens except by the order of Allah. Nothing happens except by the order of Allah. So Allah causes His order to descend between the heavens and the earth. The orders of Allah as regards what happens on the earth and what happens in the universe. Where is that written at? Who knows where that's written? It's written in a book called what? Allah wrote the Qadr in what? The book is called Al-Lawh Al-Mahfuz. Whoever heard that before? Al-Lawh Al-Mahfuz. It's called the preserved tablet. The preserved tablet. Right? Allah, as the Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith of Abdullah ibn Amr, he said, كَتَبَ اللَّهُ مَقَادِيرَ الْخَلَائِقِ. Allah wrote the predestinies of all of the creation. What is going to happen before it happens. 50,000 سنة قبل أن يخلق السماوات والأرض. 50,000 years before He created the heavens and the earth. So the question is, so if Allah wrote, since Allah wrote the predestinies of everything, what would happen to everyone before it happened, then when did Allah know that? When did Allah know that? How long has Allah known what will happen? Forever. Right? And I ask the question so that we don't get confused, to think that Allah decided, some people use the word, what's going to happen 50,000 years before the creation of heavens and the earth. But Allah has always known. But 50,000 years before the creation of heavens and the earth, it was written in the book of the Lawh al-Mahfuz. So what is in the Lawh al-Mahfuz is told to the angels every year on a particular night. Who knows what that night is? Laylatul Qadr. Also, Laylatul Qadr is the night that what was given to who? That the Quran was revealed to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Also, the Laylatul Qadr is the night that revelation was given to Ibrahim. There's a hadith in a book called the Musnad of Imam Ahmad. It's authentic from a companion whose name is Waihid ibn al-Asqa. And he said, and he mentioned the exact night that the revelation was given to Ibrahim, and the revelation was given to Musa, and the revelation was given to Isa, and the revelation was given to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And so we know that, and in the Laylatul Qadr, that the revelation was sent for the guidance of people, and that also every year that the angels, they learn about what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to happen in the Qadr. What Allah wants to happen on the earth, to the people of the earth, and to everywhere in the universe. The Qadr of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Let's go back. So the verse says Allah created the 7 heavens, and He created the earth, right? And He sent down revelation, and He decreed everything to happen before it happened. Why? Then Allah says, لِتَعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ قَدْ أَحَاطَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عِلْمًا. So that you can know that Allah has power over everything, and that Allah encompasses everything in knowledge, meaning that Allah has complete knowledge and perfect knowledge about everything, and every time and every place. To the point that Allah knows more about you than you know about yourself. Allah knows what you are thinking, and He knows what you are going to think before you think it. Allah knows everything. There's not a leaf that falls. There's not an ant crawling upon the smallest black rock in the darkest black night in the deepest abyss, except that Allah sees it, that He hears the scuttling of His feet, and that He knew about it before it was created. Everything is known to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah has perfect knowledge of everything subhanahu wa ta'ala. So why did Allah create everything? And why did Allah send the revelation? And why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decree our lives and everything to happen in the way that it happens? So that we can know about what? So that we can know about what? Allah says so that you can know that Allah has perfect knowledge and Allah has perfect power. So the simple answer for that is so that we can know Allah. It's so that we can know about Allah. So everything that happens to a person can teach him something about Allah. About Allah's power, about Allah's mercy, about Allah's justice. And everything that a person reads in the Quran or in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ or hears, then it teaches him about the knowledge of Allah, the power of Allah, and the mercy of Allah, and the justice of Allah, and the wisdom of Allah, and so on and so forth. So Allah created us, the first reason, we said, for what? To test us. The second reason so that we can know Him, so that we can know about Allah. How do we know about Allah? How do people know about Allah? Okay, so what is there in the revelation that Allah sent that tells us about Allah? Allah has beautiful what? Beautiful what? Beautiful names, right? And attributes. Allah has names. Who knows some of the names of Allah? Tell me some of the names of Allah, one of Allah's names. I didn't hear you. What did you say? No, some of Allah's names. Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, Ar-Razaq, Al-Quddus, Al-Sabur. So this is one of the most important parts of what is called Tawheed. What's the other reason that Allah created us? So we gave two reasons, and now give me the third. Give me the third. You gave it to me at the beginning of the class. To worship Him. So in order for a person to pass his test correctly, he needs to know about Allah, and he needs to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the three reasons that Allah mentioned in the Quran that He created us is so that we can be tested, so that we can know Him, and so that we can worship Him. In order to worship Him, we have to know about Him. How can a person worship Allah if they don't know about Allah? If a person doesn't know anything about Allah, how are they going to worship Allah? So how do we know about Allah? The Quran. How else? The prophets, the creation. So we know about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by two ways. Allah has given us evidences. He has shown us things about Himself and the creation. Everything that we see that Allah created is a proof that Allah has perfect knowledge and perfect power. If I was to tell you to go build a house, would you be able to do it? If I told you, what's your name again? Amir. If I told you, Amir, if I said, go build me a house, right? Would you be able to do it? Probably not. What would you need to be able to do it? You need a bunch of people. So you would need manpower. You need money, which is also part of ability, material. Okay, now you have all of that. I give you all of the material. I give you everything you need for the roofing, everything you need for the foundation. I give you the mortar. I give you the building permits. I pull everything up. Are you able to do it? Why? Yes? If you have all the people that you need, if you have everything that you need, all the materials, you have enough people, you'll be able to do it. Do you know how to build a house? Do you know how to build a house? Do you know how to build a house? Yeah? You know how to put the wiring in? You know how to do the electrical work? You know how to do the plumbing? You know how to make sure it's up to code? Do you know what up to code means? So you don't what? You don't know. Right? So you have to have knowledge and you have to have ability. You have to have knowledge and you have to have ability. So anything that is made is a proof that the one that made it has two things, which is what? Knowledge and the ability. So if that's the case with something like a house or a car or anything else, then what about a human being? The one that created the human being in the most perfect way, that gave them the bones that they have, with the muscles that they have, and all the organs and the systems they have, the nervous system, digestive system, they have a stomach with intestines and so on and so forth. This is a proof of the knowledge and the power or ability of the one who created. So this applies to everything that Allah created. Everything that Allah created, to the point that the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Inna Allah khaliqu kulli sani'in wa ma sana'." That Allah created every person who manufactures something and the thing that they manufactured. That Allah created every person who manufactured, who made something, and the thing that they made. Why? Because Allah is the one who gave them the knowledge and the ability. So Allah was the cause of that thing being made, and He was the one who gave them the inspiration to make that thing. People, how long have people been flying in airplanes? Like 500 years, right? Like 500 years people are flying in airplanes? Do we have flying cars now? When I was a kid, I thought that by the time I'd be an adult, I'd have a flying car. I am disappointed. Whatever. Listen. Yeah, right? So people, how long have people how long have people been flying in airplanes? Maybe 100 plus years, right? Right? 100 something years, 130, 120 years maybe. Right? Before that, were they able to? So how did they all of a sudden have the inspiration to? It was from Allah. That they had the inspiration to be able to invent the things that they invented. Every person that makes something, Allah created them. He created their intentions. He created their ambitions. He created their aspirations. He created their actions. He created their characteristics. He created everything about them. He created everything about them. So Allah is the creator of everything, and He is the creator of every person who makes a thing and the thing that they make. So everything that we see and everything that exists that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created, it shows us about the knowledge of Allah and the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And those things that we find that Allah created that benefit us and help us, like what? What type of things are there that we can't live without? Stoves, refrigerators, houses, food and food, tablets. How could we live without tablets? Right? So everything that we have that's like that, it shows us what about Allah? What does that show us about Allah? Everything that we have that we need or that makes our lives more comfortable, what does that show us about Allah? That Allah provides. What else? What else? He said great knowledge and great power. What else? No. I'm looking for something else. It shows that Allah is merciful. Right. Who said that? MashaAllah. Very good. Shows that Allah is merciful. That Allah provides. Also, that Allah is kind. Right? That Allah is generous. Shows us a lot of things about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we look at what Allah has created and the things that happen to the creation of Allah, who does Allah provide for? All the creation. Everything that exists, what's the biggest thing that Allah gave to them? Everything that's alive? Life. Life is provided by Allah. It's from the mercy of Allah that Allah caused it to be alive. Right? So Allah brought everything to life. He provides for everything subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is a sign of His knowledge, a sign of His power, a sign of His mercy, a sign of His generosity, and so on and so forth. So the creation, what we see in the creation shows us about the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, from that, we see that the more people do of good, the more Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will cause them to have happy lives. Right? And the more people do of wrong and harm other people, the more Allah will cause those people to be miserable. Even if they have everything in the world. You'll find a person, they may be poor, they may not have a whole lot, they may not have what most people have, but they're obedient to Allah, and They're kind to the creation. They're kind to other people. And they treat other people correctly, and they don't oppress anyone. And so Allah gives them al-qana'ah. Allah gives them satisfaction. They're satisfied with their lives. And He gives them happiness. And those are two things that money can't buy. Those are two things that no matter how much a person has, as a matter of fact, most people have money, they'll never find those things ever. You have all the money in the world. A person can have all the money in the world. So some people, Allahu Musta'an, they have everything in the world, and then they decide that they want to kill themselves. They decide that they don't want to live any longer. Right? Yeah, some people will kill themselves because they're that miserable. Because they're that miserable. They have everything in the world, but they're disobedient to Allah. So this shows us about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah is, from the names of Allah is that Allah is Shakur. What does Shakur mean? Shakur. Ash-Shakur means that, Ash-Shukr, what does Shukr mean? Gratefulness. Now imagine that Allah will be grateful for people's actions. That Allah will be grateful for people's actions. And so Allah makes the person who is obedient to Him happy. And this is from Allah's gratitude. This is something that's tremendous. This is amazing. Because people are really insignificant, right? Who's ever seen the globe? Everybody's seen the globe, right? They've seen a picture of the earth from outer space. You ever see a picture of the United States from outer space? Okay, so you have the globe, the United States, right here, right? Where do you live? You live in North Carolina, right? North Carolina is where? It's right here. It's a little dot right here, right? It's a little dot right here. And you're a little dot inside of a little dot inside of a little dot. You're just very, very small. And the earth is just in the middle of outer space, floating in the middle of outer space, held there by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so it doesn't move from its place. Right? That Allah, even though you're that small and that insignificant and that unimportant, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be grateful for what you do. And will bless you beyond what you can imagine for what you do. So this shows us about the reward of Allah. Also it shows about the punishment of Allah for the people who do sins. What is it called when a person commits a crime and they are arrested for that crime and they are put in jail for that crime? What do we call that system? What is it called? The what system? The justice system. So they call it the justice system. Right? And we're not saying that the system of the disbelievers is fair, right? But we're trying to say, what is it called when a person is punished for a crime? It's called justice. Right? That's called justice. So when a person harms other people and they disbelieve in Allah and they invite other people to disbelieve in Allah and so on and so forth, and Allah punishes them, that's called justice. So when we see that bad things happen to bad people and that people are punished for what they do to other people, so on and so forth, then that teaches us about, shows us about the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What about people that harm people and we never see them punished? They never get punished. They live their whole lives and then they die. They're going to get punished when? In the hereafter. After death. So this is the proof for what? That there is going to be a day of judgment. There's going to be a day of judgment. Because Allah is fair. This is what everybody who believes in the messengers, who believed in messengers before Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that everybody should agree upon. So as scholars, Ibn Taymiyyah and others, they said that these things that we're talking about Allah having perfect knowledge, perfect power, perfect justice, perfect wisdom, that these are things that everybody who say that they believe in the Creator, say that they believe about the Creator, or should say that they believe about the Creator. So these are also things that we can use to give da'wah to people, right? To give da'wah to people, to invite them to Islam. Okay, so the point is that Allah created us so that we can know Him. And the more that we know about Him, the more that has an effect upon us. So when we know about Allah's mercy, and we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is kind and He is merciful and He's given everything to us that we could ever need, then how does that have an effect upon us? It causes us to be what? Or it should cause us to be what? Righteous? More than that. If I gave you $1 million right now, how would you feel about me? Right? How would you feel about me? I'm an alright guy, right? That I'm rich, right? If you give somebody, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Tahadu, Tahabu. Let's memorize this hadith real quick. It's 2 words. Tahadu, Tahabu. Tahadu, Tahabu. It means give gifts to each other and you'll love each other. If somebody gives you something, if somebody gives you a gift, if I don't know you and I come up to you, and I'm not because I'm poor, I'm not that poor, but if I was to just start handing out $20 bills to everybody here, I'd say, man, that Umar Quinn, I love that dude, man. MashaAllah, you don't even know me, he gave me $20, man. My dad didn't even give me $20. You would be really happy, right? So if you get something from somebody, it causes you to love them. So what about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How much more for Allah that Allah has given you everything? If Allah decided that you couldn't have any more air, Ibn Qayyim, he said that people get so much from Allah and yet they're so ungrateful. He said it's like a person who's drowning and they don't believe that there's water there. Like what water? You're surrounded by Allah's blessings. The air that you breathe, every second of your life is a gift from Allah that you can never get back. It's something that is an opportunity to do some type of good to be rewarded for in the hereafter. And that's all that people will want when they come to the end of their life, is to live longer. They wish that they have more what? More time. So every minute that a person has, every moment that a person has, is a blessing from Allah. People get so many blessings from Allah, they can't begin to imagine the blessings of Allah. Somebody came, one of the children of the Sahaba, they came to Amr ibn al-As, while he was the governor of Egypt. And they said to him, they said, Alastu min fuqara al-muhajirin? They said, aren't I considered from the poor people from the muhajirin? Because the poor people from the muhajirin, they have a right. The poor people from the Sahaba that used to live in Mecca, that went to Medina after the people of Mecca were hurting them, they had a right to get money from the Muslim treasury, from where the money was kept. So he said, aren't I a poor person from the Muhajirin? Meaning, can I get some money from the ruler, from the governor? So he went to the ruler and he said, can I get some money? Aren't I a poor person? So Amr ibn al-As, he said, don't you have a house that you go to at the end of the day that gives you shelter? He said, yes. He said, don't you have a wife that you go to for comfort at the end of the day? He said, yes. He said, how many times do you eat your food in a day? He said, twice. He said, bal anta min muluk al-Arab. He said, no, you are one of the kings of the Arab. You are one of the kings of the Arab. You have a house, you have food, you're comfortable, you're safe. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, من أصبح منكم عاملا في سربه معافا في بدنه عنده قوت يومه فكأنما حيزت له الدنيا بحذافيرها. He said, whoever wakes up in the morning safe in their home, some people they wake up in the morning and there are bombs dropping. Some people they wake up in the morning and their family is dead. Some people they wake up in the morning and they're afraid to step outside of the door because of the places that they live are very dangerous. Right? So Allah has given us what? He's given us safety. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, whoever wakes up in the morning, safe in their home. آمِنًا فِي سِرْبِهِ مُعَافًا فِي بَدْنِهِ. Healthy in body. Some people wake up in the morning, they have cancer. Nas'alullah al-afiyah wa salama. Some people, they wake up in the morning and they have diabetes. They have to take insulin. They have to be careful what they eat. I mean, people, they wake up, even children. Some children, they wake up and they're very, very sick every day, and they don't feel good every day. But we wake up, most of us, we wake up every day, and Allah has given us health. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever wakes up safe in their house every day, healthy every day, عَنْدَهُ قُوتُ يَوْمِهِ, with enough food to eat on a day, then he has been given the entire world. Hadith al-Tirmidhi. He's been given the entire world. If you have those three things, you're safe in your house, you're healthy, you have enough food for the day. It's like you have everything. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said in the Quran, He said, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لِرَبِّهِ لَكَنُودٌ. He said, people are ungrateful to Allah. People are ungrateful to Allah. Meaning that they forget the blessings Allah gave them and they count all of their problems. So when we see what Allah has blessed us with, it should cause us to what? It should cause us to love Allah, right? أليس كذلك? Right? It should cause us to love Allah. Everything that we have, it should make us love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Allah has given us parents, Muslim parents. That's a great blessing from Allah. Many of us, when we were children, our parents were Muslim. Our parents taught us that God was a man that was born, that died, that was beaten. They said He died for our sins. So it didn't matter what we did anymore because we were saved already. So you have Muslim parents that teach you about Allah, teach you about the paradise, that protect you from things that will harm you. This is something you should be very grateful for. You should be very grateful for it. So you look at what Allah has given you, and that makes you love Allah, and makes you grateful to Allah, and makes you what? If you want something from Allah, and you see what Allah has already given you, and has already given the people, and Allah has control over everything, then you hope for it from Allah. When you want to ask for it, then you do what? When you want something, and you can't have it, then what do? You ask Allah. You make what? You make dua. So what is this called? Loving Allah, hoping for Allah's kindness, being grateful to Allah, making dua to Allah. What are these things called? They're worship. These things are called worship. So the more we know about Allah and what Allah has done for us, the better we can worship Allah. When we know about Allah's power, and the fact that Allah sees everything, and the fact that Allah punishes people for their sins and their crimes, and how should that make us feel when we do a sin? Fearful. We should be afraid. Right? What did you say? Sad. So this fear, and this being, feeling bad about what you did, being remorseful, what is that called? It's called worship. That is worship. Being afraid of Allah's punishment is worship. It is the worship of what? The worship of the heart. Loving Allah, hoping for Allah's mercy and kindness, fearing the punishment of Allah, having trust upon Allah. So the more we know about Allah, and Allah's names, and what Allah is described with, and what He is not described with, and the better we can worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is why Allah created us, so that we can know Him, and so that we can worship Him. So we can know Him, and so that we can worship Him. One of the greatest ways to increase in your knowledge about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to learn about the beautiful names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to memorize them, and to understand their meanings, and to think about how that affects your life. How does that affect your life? That Allah is Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Al-Muhsin Al-Jawad Al-Kareem. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is merciful and benevolent and generous and kind, and so on and so forth. How does that affect your life? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Sami'un, Basirun, Alimun, Raqib, Shaheed. Tabarak wa ta'ala, that Allah sees everything, observes everything, witnesses everything, hears everything, knows everything. How does that affect a person? When you know that Allah is watching you, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees you and hears you and witnesses everything that you do and knows everything about you, how does that make you feel? Knowing that about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a person will be what? They'll be careful about everything that they do. Right? They'll be careful about everything that they do. So he learns about Allah's names and he thinks about, how does that affect him? That Allah is like this, how does that affect him? And this, right, it makes him more fearful when he knows that about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It will make him shy of Allah. And being shy is worship. It's one of the greatest forms of worship, to be shy of Allah. So he learns about the beautiful names of Allah and he thinks about how that affects him and how that affects other people. And it has an effect upon his behavior and how he treats other people and his worship of Allah. Also, another way that we can learn about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is by making dhikr. By learning how to make dhikr. What a person says in the morning and the evening. Who knows what to say when they get up out of the bed in the morning? Alhamdulillah alladhi ahyana ba'da ma amatana wa ilayhi nushur. All praise is due to Allah who ahyana, who brought us, who gave me life and caused me to die and will cause me to die, right? Wa ilayhi nushur. And just as he did that, just as I went to sleep and I woke up and it was another day, right? Because what is meant by he caused me to die is the temporary death, which is sleep, right? Right? So just as that will happen, one day he's going to die. His life is going to come to an end. Wa ilayhi nushur. And he's going to be resurrected. Does this teach us about something about Allah? This dua that you make in the morning, does that teach you something about Allah? That teaches you something about Allah. Every form of dhikr that you make teaches you something about Allah. And it makes you think more and more and more about Allah. Every day on a daily basis. So these are two of the most important ways that a person can learn about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. By knowing about Allah's beautiful names, and by making dhikr, by knowing what to say when they wake up, what to say when they go to bed, what to say after the salat, what to say when they eat, what to say when they finish eating. To learn all the different du'as and the types of dhikr that a person says is one of the best ways to learn about Allah. To learn those things and to learn what they mean. And then the third way, that is from the greatest ways to know about Allah, is just to read the Quran. Just to read the Quran. And it's the greatest way to know about Allah is to read the Quran, because every page of the Quran is going to teach you something else about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deals with His creation. And how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from His creation. And what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards the people with and what He punishes them with. So we were created, Allah mentioned 3 reasons in the Quran that we were created. What are those 3 reasons? To worship Him, to know Him, and to test us. Right? The people who pass their test are the people who what? Who know Allah the most and who worship Allah the most. Right? Or the best rather. They are those who know Allah the best or the most, and they are those who worship Allah the best. So this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us for at-tawheed. For at-tawheed. And everything in the religion goes back to at-tawheed, and it's the most important thing that you have to learn about. It's the most important thing that you have to learn about. And there's a lot of details about tawheed. There's a lot of details about knowing about Allah's names. There's a lot of details about making dhikr and dua. There's one of the scholars in Medina, he wrote a book called Understanding How to Make Dhikr and Dua. It's 3 volumes. It's like 1,400 pages long. It's not a little topic. Right? It's not a small topic, a short topic. And it's something that a person learns more and more and more and more about. Just making dhikr. Just making dhikr. Learning about Allah's names, the scholars have written books in hundreds of pages explaining to us different things, important things that we need to know about Allah's names. And things that are incorrect to believe about Allah. So this is from the most important things. The scholars have written a lot of books about the importance of worshiping Allah and what is shirk, and how different things that people do that they don't think there's anything wrong with, that are considered as forms of worshiping others besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the older you get, the more important it will become that you learn about these things in detail, and that you find these things to be the most interesting things that you can ever learn about and ever find out about. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us benefit from what we heard today. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Okay. Any questions? Sahabi who narrated a hadith about the days of revelation? Wathila ibn al-Asqa. Wathila ibn al-Asqa. Fa'in. Tahadu, like from the word hadir with the soft ha. Tahadu, tahabu. Ta, ha, alif, ba, mushaddada, waw, alif. Tahadu, tahabu. Okay, السلام عليكم. كيف الحال؟ الحمد لله. شنو؟ أحمد، حياك الله يا أحمد.